In this section, we are going to create one simple MVC web application with the help of NetBeans IDE, and we're going to deploy our application on Glassfish application server 2.x. For the creation of this simple MVC web application, we are going to follow 4 simple steps. In step 1, we are going to create one entry.jsp page which will act like a view. In step 2, we are going to create one user JavaBean which will act like a model. In step 3, we are going to create one process servlet which will act like a controller, and in step 4, we are going to create one result.jsp page which will act like a view. Now let's open our NetBeans IDE. After opening NetBeans IDE, click on Services tab, click on Servers and start our Glassfish application server 2.x. In my case, my Glassfish application server 2.x is already running. After starting the server, click on File, New Project. Select Java Web from the left hand side under Categories and select Web Application from right hand side under Projects and click on Next. Enter project name as SimpleMVC. Select default project location and click on Next. Select Glassfish application server 2.x from the drop down list. Select Java EE version as Java EE 5, and this is the context path of our application with a slash, which is equivalent to our project name, that is SimpleMVC. With the help of this context path, we can access our application in a web browser. After selecting proper server, proper Java EE version and context path, click on Next. As far as our project is concerned, we do not need any of these frameworks, so we can skip this step and finally click on Finish. This action will generate one simple MVC web application on the left hand side of NetBeans IDE. This is our simple MVC web application. Because we do not need this index.jsp page, we can right click on index.jsp and click on delete. Yes. Now we are going to follow our 4 simple steps for the creation of the simple MVC web application. Now let's move to our step 1. In this step, we are going to create one entry.jsp page which will act like a view. For that, just right click on Web Pages, New, JSP. Enter file name as entry. We do not need to specify any extension for this file and click on Finish. This is our entry.jsp page. Let's write some meaningful code here after deleting this default text. Okay, let's write some meaningful text here. In first part, we are going to write form tag. For that, this form tag contains 2 attributes. First one is the method. In our case, our method is post. And second attribute is action. Let's leave this action attribute blank right now. Now we are going to provide 3 text inputs for 3 fields like first name, last name and email. These are our 3 text inputs for first name, last name and email. these three text inputs are having their name attributes as capital first name, capital last name, and capital email. Now we are going to provide labels for these three text inputs. Now let's move to our next part. In this part we are going to create one submit button. Here we are going to provide value, that is submit. So this is our complete entry.jsp page. Now let's move to our step 2. In this step we are going to create one user JavaBean class. For that, right click on source packages, new, click on Java class. Enter class name as user and package name as form.temp.model. And finally click on finish. This is our user class, and this user class will capture the data entered by a user. We need to provide three properties here. These are first name, last name, and email. And these are mentioned in camel case. We also need to provide two constructors. First one is default constructor and second one is parameterized constructor. This is our default constructor. This is our parameterized constructor. Now we are going to provide getters and setters for three properties. For that, right click on text editor, click on refactor, click on encapsulate fields. Click on select all. This section will select all these methods, getters and setters, and finally click on refactor. This section will generate getters and setters for these three properties. Okay, this is our user class. Now let's move to our step 3. In this step we are going to create one controller, that is process controller. For that, right click on source packages, new, click on Java class. Enter class name as process. This is the name of our controller, and package as com.temp.controller. This process class will act like a controller, and this class will reside in that is com.temp.controller package. After entering proper class name, package name, click on finish. This is a simple class. In order to provide some server-side capabilities, we need to extend HTTP Servlet here. And we need to provide proper imports. Now we are going to override Now we are going to override doPost method here, because the method in entry.jsp is a post method. That's why we are going to override doPost method here. And we need to provide HTTP Servlet request and HTTP Servlet response as the parameters. Because this method can throw some exceptions, so we are going to provide throws here. Now in first part we are going to extract the information from entry.jsp. For that we are going to call one method, that is getParameter with request object, and we are going to extract the information with the help of request.getParameter and assign those values to Java string. So let's write the code for that. Here the argument of getParameter is nothing but the name of input text field. In our case, these fields are mentioned in capital letters, so that is first name. Now we are going to assign these extracted values in Java strings. We are going to repeat this process for remaining two fields. In right hand side of equal symbol, we are extracting the values from entry.jsp and we are assigning those values to Java strings on the left hand side of equal symbol. Now let's move to our next part. In this part we are going to instantiate our user object. For that we need to provide proper import. Okay, we need to rename this package to model. Right click on this package, click on refactor, click on rename, and replace this with model and click on refactor. This is our import. Now we are going to instantiate our user class with the help of default constructor. Now we are going to call setters, and we are going to assign these strings to setter methods. Now in next part we are going to set this user object and request scope. For that we are going to call one method, that is setAttribute with the request object. So here we are going to call method request.setAttribute. This method is having two arguments. First one is the name of object and second one is an object itself. So here we are going to mention user as the name of our object, and second argument will take an object itself. So our object is user. Now let's move to next part. In this part we are going to call getRequestDispatcher with the help of request object. So we are going to forward our request and response to the next resource, that is result.jsp. Of course this result.jsp page does not exist right now. We are going to create this page in our fourth step. On the left hand side of equal symbol we are going to write request dispatcher. And with the help of dispatcher object, we are going to call a forward method. And this action will forward our control to next resource. Now this is our servlet, that is process servlet. Now in order to activate this process servlet, we need to provide some configurations and a web.xml deployment descriptor. So double click on configurations file, click on web.xml and click on XML. Now we are going to provide some entries here in web.xml for this process servlet. Start with servlet tag. The servlet tag contains two more tags. First one is servlet name. We can choose any arbitrary name, but as far as our example is concerned, we are going to write process here. So name of our servlet is process, and we need to provide servlet class. And this is the full qualified class name without extension. In our case, it is com.temp.controller.process. We need to provide one more tag, that is URL pattern. We need to provide one more tag here, and that is servlet mapping. In servlet mapping, we need to provide two more tags. First one is servlet name. Both these names should be same. And second one is URL pattern. In our case, our URL pattern is /process. We can access our servlet with the help of this URL pattern, that is process. We do not need to provide any slash at the beginning when we are accessing this servlet. So this is our web.xml file. Just save this file. Okay, before moving to our next step, let's modify our welcome file, because we do not need this index.jsp file. We're going to replace this file with entry.jsp. Okay, so this is our complete web.xml deployment descriptor. Just save this file. Now let's move to our step 4. In step 4, we are going to create one result.jsp page. For that, right click on web pages, click on new, click on JSP, enter file name as result, and click on finish. This is our this is our result.jsp page. Let's move to our first part. Here we are going to provide one import. We're going to import user class here. Okay. We're going to delete this default strings. This default text. And we're going to write some meaningful text here. Now let's move to our next part. Here we are going to create scriptlets. Now we are going to extract the information of user object. That is, we are going to extract user object from request scope. For that, we need to call one method, that is a get attribute with the help of request object. So we are going to call request.get attribute, and we need to provide proper name of our object, that is user. Because this method will return one object, we need to cast that object to a proper object, that is user. And on the left hand side of equal symbol, we need to provide user and a reference. Now our user object is there. Now we can extract the information stored in the user object with the help of expressions. So here we are going to write some expressions. And we are going to call getters with the help of user object. These are line breaks. This BR are line breaks. So this is the code of result.jsp page. Now let's open our entry.jsp and we are going to provide the value of action attribute here, that is process without a slash. So this is the complete code of our SimpleMVC application. We are going to execute this code and we are going to deploy this application on Glassfish application server 2.x. For this, right click on SimpleMVC, click on clean and build. Okay, build process is successful. Now right click on SimpleMVC and click on run. So here is our entry.jsp. As you can see that we are accessing our application, that is SimpleMVC, with the help of context path. So this is the output of entry.jsp. We do not need to mention entry.jsp here. Okay, now we are going to provide some meaningful information here. After entering some values and after hitting submit button, we'll get this response. So this is our SimpleMVC web application.